Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and the Doc coming back today to have some fun because we're talking about some free agents here in the NFL for 2022. And I could have sat here and done this by myself, but if anybody on our team is getting close to free agency, it's got to be the Doc because he's on the chopping block every single year, right?
It feels that way. I'm always a little stressed.
Yeah.
Contract negotiations are never ending
tough.
at the Headliners.
Yeah.
And I'm stressed. At some point you'll probably want to replace me, and I just refuse to leave. So
You're kind of just like stuck here, right? You're just like, we couldn't get rid of you if we tried.
well, I just keep taking these team-friendly deals, and
That's true.
It's really
You are a
helping
team player.
the team grow. Yeah,
100%.
that's what it is. Yep.
And some of the players that we're going to be talking about today could be doing the same thing. So what we're going to be doing today here, real quick, I have to announce the winners of the giveaway, Ethan.
Ooh.
Our playoff giveaway, the full-size helmet signed by Justin Herbert, because right now I'm feeling so fancy. And then I also have the signed Austin Eckler jersey, and I'm going to announce those winners here in just 1 second. Also, we're going to be going through the best available free agents, going to stay on the offensive side of things right now. There's like 712 free agents, it feels like, this year, all over the place. Some big names on the defensive side of the football as well. We'll get them in a different show. Today, we're talking offense, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. We're going to go through this list of some of the top names and just let you know whether we think that they stay with their current team or they leave. If they're out the door going somewhere else. We got some salary cap information to try to maybe pinpoint some of these, options where these guys could have a potential landing spot. But Ethan, should we give away the stuff?
Give away the stuff, Jake.
Let's give away the stuff. And here's what's great. I mean, if you like giveaways, hit the like button because we got another big one. I'm talking huge for the Super Bowl. What we're giving away for the Super Bowl is it's big money.
It's big. You want to just throw the notifications on and everything. You don't want to miss this one.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to be announcing that here in just a few days, so make sure you stay subscribed. But all right, here we go. Let's go ahead and announce the winner of the Austin Eckler jersey first. The winner of the signed Austin Eckler jersey is Kelly Marshburn. Kelly, I'm going to email you at the email address that you have provided here, and congratulations. You just won yourself a signed Austin Eckler jersey. But now, what everybody wants, I want, right? I mean, I definitely a very valuable piece of memorabilia, a full-size signed Justin Herbert helmet. The winner, randomly selected, and this winner was picked from Prize Picks as somebody who signed up for Prize Picks. It's Ryan Maston. Congratulations, Ryan. You are the winner of the signed Justin Herbert full-size helmet. I will be emailing you as well to get it shipped out to you and enjoy. But here's what we're going to do. Remember, we're not stopping the giveaways right now. The giveaways last all year round. So do us a favor. Make sure you head over to pristineauction.com, sign up for a new account, and use the referral code HEADLINERS. When you do that, you're going to get a $10 off coupon, and you're going to be eligible for all these giveaways that we do all year long. So don't miss out on that opportunity. But Ethan, now is the time where we can talk about some players that may be on the move here this year. We're going to start with the quarterback position. And why are we starting there? It's probably going to be the quickest one because there ain't a whole lot really available that's really worth a crap from the quarterback position. First guy up that we're going to be talking about is Jameis. I know you love yourself. Jameis Winston may be your favorite quarterback of all time. I know this. Trust me. But here's what's crazy about him. Jameis has kind of been linked to a few different teams. Being that he's a free agent, he's coming off of the torn ACL, which is not ideal. Now, before we kind of go too far into Jameis, the first question I have for you is, would you want him to be the quarterback of your Pittsburgh Steelers?
No, unless we just can't find a good option.
What would you rather have, him or Mason Rudolph?
Well, that is, come on,
not
Jake.
a good option.
Would I rather have a $10 bill or a rock? Like, clearly I don't want the rock. Jake.
Is Mason Rudolph the Rock?
Yes. Well, not the rock.
Yeah,
but
he's
like
not that
a rock.
A rock. Okay,
Like
I got
more
you.
of a pebble. Like, It's just not
A piece of pea gravel or
no.
something.
I'm okay with Jameis Winston if that's where the Steelers decide to go. I think our defense is good enough to potentially continue winning games. I mean, he can't be worse than Ben was this year. So even coming off the ACL, so I don't mind that. It just wouldn't be my first choice.
So do you think he does leave though? Do you see him staying in New Orleans, being that they really don't have any other options there? No more Sean Payton, just a lot of question marks surrounding that team, but they have no money. So if he stays in New Orleans, he ain't gonna get paid nothing, because when you look at the cap information for the Saints, they are $76 million in the hole. Like, I don't even know if they could sign dude, from Section 315 that's like 2 beers deep and a foot-long hot dog to play for this team right now, because they can't afford nobody.
Yeah, they're in the negative. And when you're
Yeah.
in the negative money, it's hard to pay a quarterback, especially. They're basically going to have to draft one. I don't know. They're not good. They're not in a good spot.
In a good spot.
I feel
Sean
bad for
Payton
Saints
left for a
fans.
reason. I mean, he looked at this roster, he looked at the cap space, and he was like, nah, dog, I'm out. Like, peace. We ain't got a shot in hell right now. All right, next guy up. Somebody who I know that I like a lot more than you. It's Mitchy Biscuits.
Oh my gosh.
Mitch Trubisky. Now, I'm not saying that Mitch Trubisky is some perennial Pro Bowler. He's not a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to go all the way with Mitch Trubisky, but I still think that he's underrated, and given a great opportunity somewhere, I think he could still be a above 500 quarterback.
I think if your argument is that if a guy goes to a perfect situation, he can be above 500, you've already lost.
Well, a lot of these teams have already lost 2022.
Well, maybe he'll take a sweet deal for the Saints, because they're going to be hurting for quarterbacks. And I know that everyone wants Mitchell Trubisky to like bounce back, because I think a lot of people agree that he kind of got shafted in Chicago, but I don't know, man. I think that he's pretty mediocre. I've seen the quarterback play and where it's at right now in the NFL. I just don't see, if you've got so much, he's kind of like Sam Darnold for me. Like, what he is and what he isn't. And he's not going to probably lead you to a Super Bowl. He might get you to 500. That's just not very sexy to me.
I mean, come on, give the guy a little credit, Ethan. Now, how about this scenario? I don't think this is even a possibility, because this team is $10 million in the hole as well. But just a fun scenario, an either or for the quarterback position. Knowing what you know about Mitchell Trubisky, backed up, this year behind Josh Allen in Buffalo, didn't really have to do a whole lot. Would you rather have him or Daniel Jones?
I mean, if I was the head coach and I was putting in my scheme, my offensive scheme, I would want a guy that I already know can run it and has run it for a year. So I would probably default to Trubisky, but I don't think either one of them is like a great quarterback.
We're gonna end on that note, because I like what you just answered right there. Okay, next guy up, Teddy B, Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater. Kind of, he ended the season a little bit on a downward spiral. I know he dealt with some concussion issues there late. Not a great situation in Denver, with him and Drew Lock, and the wide receivers continually banged up, really reliant on the running game there. Don't really know what's going to happen there next year. Teddy B is starting to be one of these guys that just bounces around the league every single year. Do you see him sticking around in Denver, or is he moving on as well?
I could see him sticking around in Denver if they don't get a quarterback that they want in the draft. I don't think they're really free agent players. I know they've got some money, but I just don't see. I guess it sounds like they're going to try to make a run at Aaron Rodgers, but I just don't. They've got 40 mil in cap space. I imagine he's going to suck up all of that. He probably wants to go somewhere where he can take Davante Adams with him. It sounds like that's what they want to do. So I think if that fails, you probably could just sign Teddy Bridgewater as, either the bridge to the next guy, Bridgewater. That's just like how he's making his career. I know we're just really stretching with the puns right now, but I don't mind re-signing him if it's a friendly deal and you're just waiting for a rookie, because this rookie class doesn't really have any guys that I'm like, oh yeah, that dude's a starter day one. Yeah. And so I think having a guy like Bridgewater on your squad makes a lot of sense with this specific quarterback class.
Perfect. Moving on to the running backs, because that's really all we're going to talk about for the quarterbacks right now. You got a few other ones out there, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton and stuff, but sticking to the bigger-ish type guys. For the running back position, first name up here, Melvin Gordon. Now, a lot of people, myself included, love themselves some Javonte Williams, so personally, I want to be selfish and say that I want Melvin Gordon to leave and go somewhere else, so this can be all Javonte Williams. I have a feeling that they're probably going to keep him, but I'm going to go ahead and list him as somebody that I think leaves town just because I want to speak it into existence. Ethan,
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, for fantasy, we definitely all want him
I'm
to
greedy.
leave.
Yep.
I think we'll be a little greedy about it. I don't know. It depends on what his contract looks like. I could see maybe the Chiefs being a desirable option for him. We talked about on the podcast this week about just how they just don't really have that grinded out running back to win when they go up big in the second half. So I think he makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs. But we'll see what, they don't have a ton of cap space. So it depends on what his price tag looks like. He's probably just going to go for the money. He hasn't really ever given me the impression that he's like chasing rings or anything. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I think he's probably just going to go with wherever gives him the best opportunity to start and continue to put up numbers and, get paid as well as he can.
What about his former teammate, Philip Lindsay? I think Philip Lindsay is highly underrated. What is it about Philip Lindsay? Is he great? No, but I think he's better than being buried on a depth chart in Houston. You know what I mean? So I think he's another guy that gets an opportunity to go somewhere else. Maybe not be a 1,000-yard, a 1,200-yard rusher, but somebody who, being that the NFL is a running back by committee league type right now, that he can fit in somewhere else and have a little bit better of a role.
A team that loves to take running backs that get injured all the time and just kind of swap them in and out. The 49ers would make a lot of sense.
There you go.
Because he's always hurt and he's kind of underrated, and they have a way of making those guys relevant. So
Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, JaMychal Hasty. I mean, they just have a whole committee. Why don't we just add another guy in there, make it even more complex? I think he's a fine back to have. He's probably more of an RB2 or 3 on a team. I don't trust him really as the guy anymore, but I think he'll find a spot somewhere because teams just burn through running backs with injuries. And I think more teams are moving more towards there's no real bell cows in the NFL because what we're finding is that when you have a bell cow, eventually they break down. And so you don't want to overpay running backs. I think he's one of those guys that you add to a depth chart just so that you can swap them out and maybe keep a stud healthy.
Yep, I got you. Next one up. Now we're going to get into some a little bit bigger names here. Cordero Patterson, somebody who was a big surprise to a lot of people this year. He was used correctly first half of the year in Atlanta and was a force that people couldn't really stop or slow down. He's now, in my opinion, somebody who's going to leave because there's going to be a team in the NFL that just they want to buy last year's production. They want to buy the hope that they can do the same thing, and somebody's going to end up overpaying for Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely going to get paid. And at this point in his career, he needs to go chase some checks. I don't think, again, another guy I don't really think is chasing a ring. I think that, he finally got unlocked. I mean, how old is he? 31?
Yeah, I mean, he's going into like
he's into his 30s now, I think. So
yeah, he's getting up there for football age.
So in that regard, he needs to go get a check. And ideally, he's probably looking for something with a couple years on it. There's not a lot of teams that really stick out. I mean, I think a lot of teams could use him effectively. But the question is where is he, who's going to give him the most money? Looking at some of the teams, I mean, maybe the Jaguars, they're dealing with some running back woes in terms of injuries, 2 guys coming off of major injuries. That could maybe make some sense. They got a lot of money that they could throw around for a year.
They don't know how to use Laviska Shenault, so why not just throw Cordero Patterson into the mix? They don't know how to use him probably either.
Maybe. I think teams will value Cordero Patterson as kind of a Debo-esque player. And I think that there are a lot of teams that are going to try to copy what Debo did this year. And he has shown that he can do that type of role. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, next guy, Rashad Penny, Seattle Seahawks. He was kind of like the guy that was like the big hype, and then he could never stay healthy. And then all of a sudden he ended 2021 on a tear. Did he do enough here to be brought back since Chris Carson can't stay healthy either? Or do you think they finally just say, hey, you know what? It is what it is. Rashad Penny's going to go ahead and move on.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Seahawks fan, you're kind of bummed that he blew up the way he did in a season that was basically over, because now they have to choose whether to keep him or not. If he had maybe had one or two really good games, I think that the team probably gives him, a pretty decent deal and they keep him on. Now, I think they're going to be in a little bit of a bidding war. I mean, he definitely showed that he could at least put up big numbers. We'll see if he can stay healthy. He's never done it in his career. I mean, everyone wants to jump on this into the season production, but it was only like 6 games. So anybody can stay healthy for 6 games.
Right.
That's my biggest concern with him. I think it limits his total, cap upside in terms of what a team will pay for him. But I do think he's going to get a nice contract, probably with the Seahawks.
All right, perfect. The next set we have are a couple of teammates. The backfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, both unrestricted free agents. We know Tom Brady just left. What happens with Gronk? Do they bring back Chris Godwin, who we'll talk about here in a second? A lot of things up in the air in Tampa Bay. I would think that you would want a solidified running game to help take some of the pressure off whoever they bring in to play quarterback. But honestly, I don't know if either one of these guys, in my opinion, comes back to Tampa Bay here this year.
Yeah, I think this is where you're going to see the team kind of try to save some money and get their cap situation under control with Tom leaving. Unless they end up landing a big quarterback trade, I don't see any reason to keep either of these guys. I think we're going to let them walk. Again, lots of teams that I think could benefit. Fournette, he's won a championship, so maybe he's chasing a second, a decent contract. But I think he seems to me more like somebody that wants to win championships.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could definitely see him going to a team that really needs running back help that is competing right now. So, I mean, not a lot of teams out there. If he really wants to stay, maybe Miami would make a little bit of sense for him.
You mentioned the Chiefs earlier.
Yeah, the Chiefs, they're another team that I think is going to be kind of in the market for maybe a veteran, grind it out kind of guy. And Leonard Fournette, I think, is probably the best guy for that job specifically. So maybe he takes a little bit less money to go, continue to chase rings with the Chiefs.
Interesting to see what happens with Ronald Jones, too. Everybody knows that I've been a say no to Rojo guy for a long time, but it wasn't talent-based. It was always opportunity-based. He just never had any type of leeway in that offense. The first mistake, you knew he was coming off the field and he's going to, screw your fantasy chances if you had him. So if he goes somewhere where he has an opportunity, Ronald Jones could be a name that we look at a little bit more closely here in the offseason. And then another two teammates. What about the Arizona backfield, James Conner and Chase Edmonds? We saw James Conner go out there and he was all about them touchdowns. He is a fan of the TDs, if you know what I'm talking about, Ethan. He's a TD guy, if you know what I mean. And knowing what he brought to that offense, he kind of seemed like the heart and soul at times when they lost DeAndre Hopkins. He was involved in the passing game. He was a great, outlet for Kyler Murray, who was banged up second half of the season. With him and Chase Edmonds kind of having their role solidified, I think this offense needs some more solidified roles, and I don't see them trying to move on from a backfield that's already shown that they can produce when needed. So honestly, Chase Edmonds and James Conner, I would be surprised if they don't come back to Arizona. I kind of expect them to stay.
Yeah, I agree. The question is can they afford to pay both of them?
Exactly.
And do they want to try to pay both of them? I don't really know. I think Connor probably earned the bigger contract just with the touchdown upside, but Chase Edmonds wasn't bad when he was healthy either. So both of these guys have some health issues. I think they're going to try to bring them both back. I hope they do, because it was good for fantasy for them to be on that team. That team's not really looking to invest in the running back, I don't think, in the draft. So, unless something happens and neither one of these guys stays, I think they're just going to shore that position up and then focus on other things to try to get themselves into competition. Because the Cardinals were one of the better teams in the NFL before the injuries hit them right at the worst time. They peaked too early, and then the injuries kind of derailed their season right at the end of the year. So I don't think they're going to really overthink the running back position this offseason. They're definitely going to focus on different things.
Yep, doesn't make sense. All right, so that was all the running backs. Let's move on to some wide receivers, some ball catchers, and there's some big names that are free agents at the wide receiver position. The first one up, the name that everybody hates, it's Allen Robinson. Now, everybody sees the, I guess you can call it, lack of performance last season, and everybody's saying, A-Rob, off my list. I'm not interested. But in my opinion, it was more so of a bad situation. I watched an interview with Allen Robinson where he even said that he didn't talk to head coach Matt Nagy for like 6 or 7 months in the offseason last year. There was no, great relationship there. He felt that once he was franchise tagged, he was kind of locked out of any potential, meetings within the team that's like you looking forward to the future. He just didn't feel like a part of it. And honestly, it showed on the field. I think he still has, gas left in the tank, and he can go be a solidified, solid, do I want to say a wide receiver one? I think he's more trending towards a high-end wide receiver two somewhere to go be, second fiddle to somebody else. But I think this guy's got plenty left in the tank, and I'm not off the Allen Robinson bandwagon, even though I do think he leaves Chicago.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of over Chicago across the board.
I can't blame him.
And I can't really either. It was a bad situation. He wasn't used well this year. And really, I know that there is some more optimism just with the coaching changes and the GM changes, but I think Allen Robinson's kind of over it as a whole. I think he's probably going to go to one of these teams with some serious cap money that could still use like a true alpha or at least a true X wide receiver. And the nice thing for all of these wide receivers is that the teams that need wide receivers have a ton of money this year. So these guys are probably going to get paid more than you expect. Definitely more than I expect. And I could see Allen Robinson still getting a pretty sweet contract from somebody if that's what he's looking for.
Yep, 100%. Next guy up, Chris Godwin. We've talked about him numerous times over the last few weeks, either on this show or in our podcasts, and hate it for Chris Godwin that he had to deal with the ACL injury in a year in which he's playing for a contract. Yeah. And now what happens? Because of all the change in Tampa Bay, are they going to pay him that much money to come back and play with a lower tier, I guess you can call it, quarterback this year if they don't land somebody bigger? And if that's the case, we can pretty much kiss Chris Godwin goodbye. He goes somewhere else. My worry with that is he's going to barely have an offseason, more than likely in a new place, in a new offense, with a new quarterback. How is he going to respond to that? Do we see the same old Chris Godwin, or do we kind of get, hoodwinked a little bit here, and he's not what he used to be, and a lot of people get burned during their fantasy football drafts? But honestly, I think Chris Godwin's gone out of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I do too. I think in general, Tampa Bay is just kind of going to implode with Tom Brady being done. I think the coach could leave. I think Gronk's probably done. They're going to have to start paying some defensive players soon. So if they don't land a quarterback quickly, I think we're going to see everyone just kind of skedaddle out of there and go chase some money off of the success of this. Godwin is no different. I could see him staying in Florida. The Dolphins, I think, could be a good fit. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars, if he's looking for money, they have a ton. They need some wide receiver help. So, those two spots make a lot of sense. And I really think the best landing spot for a wide receiver, maybe not Chris Godwin specifically, but across the board, the best landing spot, I think, is going to be the Chargers with Justin Herbert. They could use more of an X receiver. So I don't know if Chris Godwin really fits the mold. I think he's almost too much like Keenan Allen. But that could be another spot where if he wants to stay in the warm weather climate, that spot makes a lot of sense for him.
And you brought up the Chargers because Mike Williams, also a free agent right here. Yeah. I think Mike Williams has the potential to be a top 10 wide receiver year in and year out. The problem is the dude just can't stay healthy, and he isn't consistent enough. He's too big play dependent. He needs that big play to really get the statistical achievements each and every week. He's not somebody who's going to soak up a ton of volume consistently. Could he be a little bit more somewhere else than what he was in LA without a Keenan Allen? Probably. But is there a landing spot out there for him that really fits that need? I don't know. I still think that he locks up a pretty sizable deal because a lot of people saw the beginning of 2021 and they want that. That's the Mike Williams that they want. Talent was never an issue with this guy. It was always health and opportunity. I'm sure he gets it, but I don't see it being in LA either.
Yeah, it's hard. It really depends on kind of what the market looks like for these wide receivers. Personally, I would rather have Allen Robinson just because he's shown that he can stay healthy, and I think that they could do similar things. I think that Mike Williams I worry for the Chargers' sake that they're going to give him a deal because they drafted him, because he has performed well for them in the past, that they're going to overpay Mike Williams, and it's going to hurt their team as a whole because he's just not as reliable.
Yep, that's the biggest thing. Another guy here, Davante Adams. We mentioned him earlier, wanting to probably go somewhere with Aaron Rodgers. And the writing's on the wall for that to happen. I can't see Aaron Rodgers leaving and Davante Adams staying in Green Bay. I just can't see that happening with all the drama surrounding the Packers. It just seems like it's a good time for them to just, split ways, go about their own business, and Davante Adams, which is crazy as this sounds, goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting to see if he actually does follow Rodgers somewhere. I think that's more interesting than me than if he stays or goes. I don't think he's going to stay. They might throw some, crazy contract at him, but I don't feel like he wants to. He doesn't want to rebuild. He doesn't really want to. It doesn't sound like he wants to play with a quarterback that's not probably top 10 at least. And so he's limiting where he could go. Davante Adams is also, he's a true alpha dog. I mean, he has never really played with a decent second wide receiver since he's become the alpha dog. Let's put it that way. Because I know he's played with good wide receivers in the past, but since he's been the guy, there's really no second guy. And so if he doesn't follow Rodgers, I'd be curious to see if he doesn't end up on a team that doesn't really have any other guys, because he likes to be the center of attention from a target perspective.
Yep, and Green Bay they don't have any money either. They're they 46 mil in the hole right now. Only team in a worse off spot is going to be the Saints. So they're not going to have a ton of money to be throwing around either. What about Juju? You're a former Steeler there. A lot of people they write off Juju because of the antics. It's the TikTok dancing. It's not so much the on-field play. So everybody has that bias built into it. But honestly, I don't think Juju is a bad wide receiver. He's somebody that I would not mind having on my team either. Do I want him to be my team's number one? No. But could I, utilize him in the slot? Absolutely. There are some teams out there that could benefit from having Juju.
Yeah, and he's still pretty young. So, yeah. I think he's going to get a decent deal, probably, 2 or 3 years, maybe a prove it deal. I don't think he wants to take another prove it deal. I think he's seen, with the injury, especially this year, that it's worth it to actually just go get paid and have some, locked in contract moving forward. So he talked about going to the Chiefs last year. He talked about going to the Ravens. I don't really like the Ravens as a landing spot because I think they kind of got a Juju type with Rashad Bateman. Indianapolis maybe makes a little bit of sense for him. But as a whole, I think Juju's probably going to be one of those guys that gets paid a decent chunk of money, and everyone's like, "Holy crap! Like, really? You're going to pay Juju that?" But let's not forget that he did have a 1,400-yard season. Like, he is not a scrub. So, yeah, I think he's going to get paid.
And like you mentioned, he's only 25 years old. So, yeah. He's not somebody pushing 30 that, is on their last leg whatsoever. A couple other big names. We're not really going to talk about these guys, but just guys to pay attention to. Odell Beckham, does he stay in LA? DJ Chark, out of Jacksonville more than likely. They probably move on. Michael Gallup, do they really need to keep him in Dallas? What is their long-term plans for Amari Cooper? That plays a role. So just some other names to pay attention to. But now we're going to transition over into tight end, and we're kind of going to rapid fire here because honestly, the tight end position is a wasteland. Not all teams utilize tight ends anyway. So even some of these guys could land somewhere else, but very few of them are probably going to be game changers in the offense that they go to. Zach Ertz being the first one here on the list. Arizona got a lot of people, coming up here to free agency. Does he fit there? I think he does, because I think they want to have a tight end, being more utilized in this offense. Do they bring back Zach Ertz to fill that? Do they go with a Max Williams who they had before, he got injured? I don't see them bringing back Zach Ertz. I think he was kind of like a stopgap to try to help them deal with some of the injuries they had last year.
He doesn't really make sense for their timeline of their team either.
Yeah,
he's just too old. Yeah, I don't think he stays.
What about Gronk? Now, a lot of people say Gronk's tied to Brady. It makes a lot of sense for Gronk to ride off into the sunset, especially if they go into full rebuild mode.
Yeah, it didn't seem, Gronk last year looked really healthy and looked really spry after a year off. This year, not so much.
Not as much.
He definitely still can score touchdowns. He's still a good tight end. But you can see where, the body was starting to wear down again. I think he's going to make enough money off the field that he doesn't really have to keep playing football. So I think he's going to probably call it quits.
Yep, I agree. Another name. What about Big Bob Tunyon? We just talked about the Packers not having any money. Rodgers leaves. Davante Adams probably leaves. Does Big Bob Tunyon want to stay? I I think that he's probably another guy that can benefit from the play on the field that he had with Aaron Rodgers to go make some more money somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have a decent market. I know he tore his ACL, so that's kind of a bummer. It always sucks when a guy's going into free agency and they have a major injury, but ACL tears don't scare teams away like they used to. So I think Robert Tunyon's going to get a job. The question is where does he want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. What about Evan Ingram? Now, Evan Ingram had all the hype coming in there, especially his rookie year in New York, and everybody expected a whole lot, and then the guy just struggles catching the football from time to time. He's probably somebody who moves on as well to another team. Does he find another team with a big enough role to where we're super excited about Evan Ingram? I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, and he's one that I think would benefit from getting out of the big markets. I think
Agreed.
he needs to go into a smaller market where maybe he can be more appreciated and less criticized. I just don't think he tolerated the New York market and lights as well as some players do. He always just seemed to kind of shy away from it. He just doesn't strike me as a guy that benefited from being under that much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he could go to a smaller market and maybe still be, an impact player for sure.
Yep. And then last guy we're going to talk about, who honestly is probably my favorite free agent tight end, it's Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. I love Mike Gesicki. In my opinion, I think dude could be like Travis Kelce light if he was given the target share consistently, if he had consistent quarterback play, something he really hasn't had in Miami. Now, I would think that Miami wants to bring him back and be part of their plans going forward. A lot of things going on in Miami that cause you to scratch your head, though. So I can't guarantee that they want to. If it's me, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm bringing back Mike Gesicki. But I also think that somebody's going to throw a bag at him to go somewhere else and be a bigger part of the offense.
Yeah, and he's one that I think really makes sense for Arizona more.
Yes,
I think he
agreed.
makes sense for their timeline more.
Yep.
He makes sense for their offense in terms of just what he provides to the offense.
Yep.
And it takes a little bit of pressure off Hopkins in the red zone. So I would like to see him go to Arizona. I could see him staying for a boatload of money in Miami. They have a ton of money.
They have a ton of money to throw around. So. Exactly. A few other guys that we haven't mentioned just to keep an eye on here, like we talked about with a few of the wide receivers. Gerald Everett, free agent in Seattle. Mo Cox problems. Does he come back to Indianapolis? We also got David Njoku. Does he finally get an opportunity somewhere? And then Dalton Schultz. Do they bring him back to Dallas? That's definitely another one of those question marks where how are they going to be smart with their money in Dallas? What happens with Michael Gallup? A lot of things going on in Dallas, but those are just another few names to pay attention to from the tight end position. But overall, looking at the landscape, despite there being a ton of free agents, these are the guys that are kind of at the top of the list that we're going to keep a close eye on and really try to figure out where they're going to go. And once they get there, how involved are they going to be in that team's game plan? But hey, it was fun to talk about some free agents, talk about some NFL opportunities here. It was really fun to give away.
Oh yeah!
Hey, that's a badass helmet. Can I just say that's Justin Herbert, dude.
I'll give you $10 for that helmet.
I can't do it. That is not my helmet anymore. That is Ryan Maston's helmet. If you want to email Ryan and see if he'll trade you for $10.
$10.
I don't think he accepts it, but hey, it's always worth a shot. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, do us a favor, hit that like button, consider subscribing to the channel. We got you covered with all things NFL all off season long, and it's always fun to have the doc around, not just talking injuries, so everybody can know that you're not just a one-trick pony there, Ethan.
I try my best to be a multi-trick pony.
Wow.
Thoroughbred pony. Yeah.
More donkey. Yep. More donkey than thoroughbred.
Yeah, if you want a good donkey story, listen to the podcast.
Yeah, Ethan's donkey story on the podcast this week had me, I was laughing so hard. So make sure you go check that out. We appreciate you guys. Once again, leave those comments down below. Let us know if you have any questions about any of these players or any cap issues for your team down below in the comment section. Looking forward to hearing those, but hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week. We'll talk to you later.